What's up YouTube, Jason here with Bite My Bits, and this is episode number 3 of Jason Bites Back, the series of which where I answer questions that come from the community in an attempt to just have a better interaction with my community. Before I dive into the normal questions that I grabbed from the YouTube comments, I do want to address this. Now, if you watched last episode, I did go into details before I had this little thing on it where I was playing in the river and I got stabbed by a piece of glass. Now, I ended up going to the doctor. Doctor told me that I severed a tendon, which is a secondary tendon that basically allows my pinky to do this. Without that secondary tendon, I could only move it with the rest of my hand because the primary tendon was okay, but I didn't have full mobility. So after that appointment, the very next day I went in and had surgery to have that reattached. Hopefully it takes because the doctor told me it was hanging on by a thread, and I'm a little nervous that maybe my arm twitched one night and it might have ripped that thread out. But basically the gist of it is after that I had to get this little splint wrap thing, and on August 1st I'm going in for him to do whatever he has to do and then probably put it in a cast. That should last for another 10 weeks. But moving forward, let's go ahead and jump into the first question. The first question is from 10 Harford, which is how to pass through CD or DVD to a VM in unRaid. Can't find out how. Thanks. Okay, so I looked into this just a little bit, and what I found that it's definitely possible. It's absolutely a thing to do, but it could take a little bit of work in order to do it. So what I actually did is I went to a YouTube channel that I've referenced for a lot of different things. It's called Space Invader 1, and I was trying to find something that related to this directly with a CD or a DVD player, and I wasn't actually able to find a video specifically on a CD or DVD player, but I did find something that referenced mounting disk directly to it using an add-on called unassigned devices. So with that add-on, you're able to pass through disks specifically to a VM. I would imagine that video would probably correlate directly with CD or DVD ROM drives, but I will reference below or in the cards to that video that I found by Space Invader 1, and hopefully that'll help. If not, if by any chance Space Invader happens to make a video sometime in the future and I find that video that relates directly to the CD or DVD-ROM, I will also link directly to that video as well. Because from what I can tell, it does take editing some XML files or some configuration files directly with text, and also using the use of a plugin, that unassigned devices. So it's not necessarily like a click, plug and play type of deal, but it can be done, I would assume. Moving on to question number 2 from Kevin. Roku stick a good option for Plex consumption? ? Is there something you recommend more? It seems like one of the cheapest options for to try my fiance to use. Okay. The thing about the sticks is I haven't used all of the sticks. I think when I was comparing all of my Plex clients, I used the Fire TV stick. I don't remember if I used the Roku stick or not, but I can tell you this. The sticks in general, from my experience, are great solutions for portability, ease of use, plug and play, wherever you want to go. Let's say you want to go over to somebody's house and plug something in, load up your Plex or Netflix or whatever you have. Maybe you're traveling abroad, you want to be able to plug into, the TVs in your hotel room, stuff like that. They're really fantastic. They're very portable. However, in my experience, the interface is fairly laggy, loading poster arts, moving through movies or TV shows, things like that. It's just going to take a little bit longer to get to where you want to go. Now, this is specifically with Plex. I haven't tested it with all the other applications, but I would imagine in something that's, going to be a little intensive like that, like loading a bunch of poster arts, it could be slow across most of the apps. So if you want something that's not going to have a terrible amount of heavy use, a Fire Stick or a Roku stick might be a good option to start with. Especially if you're going to be giving it to somebody who maybe is not going to be irate or just infuriated by a laggy interface, which is definitely not me, because rage. Numero Treso, which Plex Docker do you use in unRaid and why? Thank you, Lyle, for that question. And I can tell you I use the official Plex repository with the little Plex Pass, which allows me to use the Plex Pass versions, and that's pretty much why. Going with the official release from Plex, I can make sure that I always have the newest build available, hopefully anyways, and on top of that I can also get the Plex Pass versions, because a lot of times those have different features and different things that I want to try out or I want to embrace before it's released to the general public. All right, the next one is from Sandro. I paid for a Plex pass mainly to support Plex. I've been using Plex for years and it's become stable, indispensable product for me. I think the Plex pass is a great way to give them while also getting return. That's true. In fact, I want to talk about that in my last video of why do you want a Plex pass or what's the point of a Plex pass. That was kind of one thing that I missed on that I really should have said. It's like not only you get all those extra features, but you're supporting a team of people who are putting a crap load of work into a product that has been well polished and has become very reliable and very feature full without really demanding money from all of its users. So, signing up for that Plex pass is definitely a good way to support them. But the question here on top of that is, by the way, is that Dean Winchester's Impala over your shoulder? Are you talking about that right there? Or are you talking about that right there? This is a DeLorean. DeLorean because they're amazing and they're Back to the Future. That's my favorite movie. And this is a 1970 Chevelle. So, yeah. Next question from Reaper of Power. He tells me what kind of server he has, which looks pretty impressive. 96 gigabytes of RAM, dual Xeon, pretty nice. Anyways, he asked, CrashPlan, have you ever successfully restored any large files? Okay. This is actually a question I wanted to pick because, first of all, the answer is no. I've never actually needed CrashPlan to restore any files, thankfully. I have been backing up to CrashPlan, but I never had to rely on it to restore from them. So that's probably should be something I should test out. The second thing with this is probably directed towards the community. This seems like a very directed question, probably leaning into the possibility of CrashPlan not being reliable to restore your files. So I want to ask the community out there, have you ever had to restore large files from CrashPlan? And if so, what has your experience been? Because if you are incapable of, restoring those large files that you spent so much time and, resources to backing up, that's kind of a problem. And if so, I probably need to find another solution. Next question is from Mitch. Dude, your videos are rather useful and informative. Thanks for uploading. I'd love to see a video about quieting servers. I have a Plex server running next to me and it sounds like jets. Now, this one actually had a few responses where they're talking about rack mount servers or desktops. And he said he had a 4U super micro chassis with 36 bays. Now this actually relates directly to Zeus. If you go back and look at some of my Zeus build vlogs where I was going through and kind of building out that server and configuring it to my needs, that was a couple videos worth of focal points where I was trying to basically tame the beast. And by beast I mean they had these really super high RPM server grade fans that literally, just as you probably, sounded like jets running. So because it was so loud and I keep my server rack in the same room where my computer is, so that's where I'm going to be sitting most of the time, I needed to quiet down. I did actually go out and purchase some Noctua fans. They're 140 millimeter fans, I believe, and I kind of machined up some kind of rather jerry-rigged version of a fan holder, and I was able to get it to quiet down tremendously. And after that I did monitor the temps, and even with full load, like doing a parity rebuild on my hard drives and a lot of different things that I've been doing, I've never once had any issues with the cooling of my computer. And on top of the Noctua fans that I got for like the little fan plate, I also, instead of using passive coolers that they usually put in servers like that have such high RPM fans in the chassis of the server, I also replaced those with Xeon coolers that had fans on top of them too. So I ended up taking out those little fast fans that were super loud and replacing it with 2 CPU cooler fans and 3 Noctua 140 millimeter fans. So I recommend checking out that video maybe for some ideas. I just kind of approached that as an ignorant person trying to fix a problem that I didn't even know could be fixed. So I wouldn't necessarily use it as a cookie cutter, tutorial on how to, silence your server, but maybe it'll give you some ideas on what you could do. Next up we have from Dante, will you continue Battle OS? I think you should try Exponology. I was able to get the same amount of transcoding streams as FreeNAS 11, and Exponology is much more simple and easy to use. Also wanted to try Rockstar, but they don't support my Ryzen CPU. Well, Dante, I can tell you this. I've kind of put Battle OS, I want to say to rest, but it's kind of in my back pocket, really. I keep that server hardware dedicated without anything installed on it that I rely on. That way I could use it for that testing platform and still have the same based hardware. So all of the results that I get from whatever test I decide to do in the future won't be skewed or wrong or anything like that. I want to keep all those variables the same. So while I don't directly have any plans right now to test any new operating systems, it is still an option in the future if I find something that just kind of sparks my interest. For example, Expinology. I don't know, maybe. Next question is from, what OS did you install? This is actually on a video where I built a Ryzen Plex media server, just kind of on paper really. And he was asking about the OS. Well, I didn't include an OS in this build for the main reason is that there are many different free operating systems options out there available to everybody. And that actually leads directly again into my Battle OS series where I go through and I test many of those free operating systems to see which one could, get the most bang for your buck out of your system. Or in this particular case, FreeNAS 11 seems to be pretty good. Actually, it's like the top of the tier, but still, that's kind of the point. You find something that you're comfortable with using or you're comfortable learning to use and you install it. And preferably make it a free operating system and something that's going to be, dedicated to like a NAS or a server that could be running all the time and, you don't have to pay a licensing fee for. Unless you go with unRaid, then you're gonna have to pay for that, but that's a different story. Next topic is from Justin. Could you please talk about what you use for a cache drive? I have a 250 SSD, but I was wondering if I should get a 1 terabyte 15K drive or a 10K drive, Justin. This is a video that I made about unRaid, and I can say this, when it comes to cache drive, I would always use an SSD. I mean, if you have a 250 gigabyte SSD, just use that. You can set up your mover, or your mover automatically is set up every night to move your files automatically from your cache drive to your hard drives. And if you're copying large amounts of files, you can even manually start that moving process if you want to. Now, if you want to copy a very large quantity of files, like let's say if you first originally set up your unRaid server, you got your new hard drive set up and you want to dump, a massive quantity of files and you don't want to have to deal with the cache drive temporarily, then you can go in there and disable your cache drive, copy your many terabytes of data over. That it will be a little slow, but you copy everything over, and then once you get everything copied over, you can take that array down, and then you can put in your cache drive, and then for any future reads that you put into that server would copy directly to that SSD. This is especially noticeable if you happen to set up a 10 gig connection between your server and your main computer where you're going to be dumping files. You'll be able to saturate a lot of that throughput and be able to write files way faster than what you would ever be able to do with a 10K or a 15K drive. Next question is from Dan. Are you sure the H.264 files are actually transcoding? Most things, Chrome among them, can play H.264 natively, and I noticed your setting was for original, so it seems like I was just playing the file, not transcoding the H.264. This is on my H.264 versus H.265 video. Dan, I can't say that for my test, when I'm testing, H.264 transcoding or really any transcoding, I specifically tell Plex to transcode down to a 2 megabit file. Any kind of things that you saw in the screen that was, screen capturing as an example, the ones that are set to original are there specifically to test the direct streams on top of the transcoding streams. So my methodology is to start as many streams as I can transcoded, and then once I cannot start another transcoded streams and have it play reliably, I switch to direct play streams. So I like to mix and match them, but I do make sure that the streams that I am testing as transcoded streams are set to 2 megabits per second, and they are transcoding. The next question is nothing. Okay, looks like that was the end of the questions for today, guys. I appreciate all the questions you submitted to me in my comments. I definitely like reading through those, and I don't necessarily have all the time in the world to go through and answer all the people's questions, but I do like doing this video series because it allows me to address some of them that really stand out that I think could, be beneficial to other people. And just like I did with the last 2 Jason Bytes Back videos, I am dedicating this whole series to my Patreon supporters. I appreciate every single one of you guys. I definitely am still surprised that people do this, but it's definitely helping me out and I like it. So what I'm going to do at the end of this video is I'm going to post, names of the people who are contributing to my channel, just to show my appreciation. And for those people who are at the $10 tier, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it this weekend, but it'll probably be sometime next week during the evenings. I'm going to try to work on that special $10 only, package video for you guys. So look forward to that by the end of next week. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you everybody for watching. If you haven't already, like and subscribe below, and have a great day.